What's up, y'all, a little faith, and welcome to episode 14 of season 2 of the Fagnostic Podcast. I'm your hostess, not your Moses, Matt Hayes, and if I'm still giving you episodes, it means that I'm still looking for answers. Y'all, a couple weeks ago, I met Christian Cintron on the queer streets of West Hollywood, and here we are today with him being a guest on the show. Christian's a writer, comedian, actor, psychic, jack of all trades, and master of fun. His unique perspective has been informed by being a proud Puerto Rican, Catholic schoolboy, marketing executive, addiction and abuse survivor, and even a drag queen. The first stand-up teacher at the Rodney Dangerfield Institute at Los Angeles City College, Christian is a graduate of Vassar College, Second City Hollywood, and RIP Iowa West Theater. His television appearances include The Wendy Williams Show and on TruTV's Fameless. Christian created Stand Up for Your Power, an intersectional, spiritual, self-improvement comedy class. It unites stand-up, psychology, diversity, equity, inclusion, and even a little magic to help students pivot their perspective, shift limiting beliefs, and roll with the punchlines. He is a spiritual counselor, a Reiki practitioner, and a coach, helping people use humor and spirituality to integrate their trauma and reclaim their narrative. He offers shadow readings to help clients see where their light is not shining so they can become the most powerful versions of themselves. His mission is to help people have the uncomfortable but vital conversations with levity, empathy, and grace. Welcome to the show, Christian Cintron. Christian, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. You and I met a couple weeks ago on a Sunday Funday, which is not my normal Sunday behavior. We have shared a mutual friend, probably more than one mutual friend if we really do a deep dive. But
I'm sure we even have some crossovers.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. In whatever regard that is to the listener. But yes, they... So allegedly, I asked you to do this podcast on the street, which sounds like me. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited because you have such an interesting presence online. And I actually recall it's my favorite accessory about you, but you do a band around your forehead with like beads on it and stuff. And so you just stick out in a crowd for that reason, and I've seen you on social media wearing it as well. But I love it. Does it signify anything? Do the beads represent any kind of like chakra or?
I mean, what I usually tell people, and I'm a comedian, by the way. So what I usually tell people is it's my crown for when all of the various plagues get rid of all the problematic people. I will be ruler of what is now known as West Hollywood.
I live for this.
But I mean, it's kind of like my energetic mask, just sort of something to kind of like maintain my energetic sovereignty and just sort of my vibe. And it's cute and it's an accessory.
Let's just recall that energetic sovereignty.
Yeah.
Tell me what that means. Actually, let's start with the first two questions.
Okay.
A, are you a believer?
Yes.
What does that word mean to you?
Believer. I mean, I think that it means you have a healthy relationship with faith. I think that we all need to believe in something larger than ourselves to check our ego, lest it take us to dark places. I think that it's just sort of a natural part of the human experience. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, like I tell people all the time, I'm a top, but I bottom for the universe.
I feel like we're all bottoming for the universe right now. Like,
I mean, well, some might argue that we're bottoming for corrupt capitalism and toxic masculinity and the failure of the American government. But you didn't hear it from me. I'm a good Christian.
We actually did. It's on record. Can you identify your pronouns for us?
My pronouns are he, him.
Thank you. I just burped on air. That's great. What is a healthy relationship to faith for you?
Well, I mean, I think that I identify as spiritual as opposed to religious. I went to Catholic school for 14 years, and I kind of saw what parts of it were sham and what parts of it were real. But I think a healthy balance is kind of a 50-50 split, because spirituality is essentially 50% you and 50% the unknown. It's 50% like some sort of truth and 50%, I don't know, fantasy, comfort. I mean...
So part of the healthy aspect of faith is not a perfection or an all-knowing, but more of a self-awareness of the unknown.
And making space for just sort of what you don't know. I mean, I think that, at least for me, my hot take, my 2 cents is that religion should offer us the ability to define and redefine certain existential concepts, like what is love, what is joy, what is faith, what is humanity, what is connection. You know what I mean? And so by that token, art is something that's a spiritual experience, human connection, sex, humor, just anything that forces us to expand our horizons, open up our minds, and shift the way we think.
Amen. Yeah. How have you come to that? Because you're from Puerto Rico, grew up Catholic, but Puerto Rico, I feel like the Puerto Rican religious experience, while there is a lot of sacred historical context there's such a flamboyant association with life from my times in Puerto Rico. It's one of the reasons I love Puerto Rico, because everything is just colorful, from the buildings to the art to the people to the energy. How did you come to where you are spiritually, growing up Catholic like that?
Yeah, so let's unpack this. So I was raised in New York, but my family is 100% Puerto Rican, so everybody is from different areas. And I think people forget that the cultural identity of Puerto Ricans is diverse. I mean, we have African, indigenous, and, colonizer ancestry. Yep. So I joke around and I say that I have good credit. I'm scared of the police and I believe in magic, But Walter Mercado, I don't know if you know him. He's a famous Puerto Rican astrologer. He's actually, I want to say, my third cousin. So my great grandmother was his first cousin. And he's a famed astrologer, and he was also flamboyant, kind of like Liberace does astrology. So, I think that there's something to be said for the balance. And I think what really helped me find faith is I just sort of had this spiritual awakening. Okay. I just sort of, things started shifting. I did drag. And I think that when I did drag, that really helped kind of heal a lot of gender dysphoria. I think, as gay men, we're always dealing with somebody else's trauma. We're always defined by somebody else's definition of masculinity. And I'm sorry that I don't look like the sports star you had a crush on or the uncle who touched you, but I'm me. And it's just so weird. So it's just sort of interesting coming from a community that is diverse, because one thing about Puerto Rico that I learned later in life was that the African slaves and the indigenous Arawak people couldn't communicate. So there was this dance called La Bomba, where it was one of them was playing the drums and then one of them was dancing, and that's just sort of how they communicated.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so when things started to shift for me spiritually, I was open, and I just sort of was reclaiming, well, what part of this is part of my ancestry? Santeria is an offshoot of Yoruban tradition. So Yoruba is a religion from Africa, I want to say Nigeria, and it's lived on in traditions like voodoo, Odun, hoodoo, Santeria. And it's basically, to sum it up pretty succinctly, it's basically like the Greek gods if they were Black. There are Orishas that have different stories and different narratives, and they represent different elements. And it just was beautiful. And I just sort of found that on my spiritual journey, random Black people would walk up to me and tell me things. And I wondered if it was because I was reclaiming the parts of my ancestry, the parts of my DNA, the parts of my epigenetics, whatever you defined it, that were cut off because of racism, cut off because of ancestral trauma. Yeah. And I also feel like I got more connected to the environment and the earth. And I'm like, is that a connection to my indigenous ancestry? Yeah. And apropos of spirituality, I don't know whether it's real or not, but it brings me comfort, and I feel like it's forcing me to expand my horizons, and I feel stronger for it, so I don't see a problem with it.
Right. Now, is your family still practicing Catholic?
So my grandmother was Pentecostal. Oh. And yeah. And so that was a lot. And I also feel my family, there kind of always was this come to Jesus moment where they got older and they really found faith. And while I think my grandmother did find a lot of comfort, I felt It was very problematic. And one thing that I always find with any overbearing Christianity is twofold. One, especially for people of color, Christianity was one of the tools used for colonization. They were perfectly fine with slavery and genocide and murdering people when Jesus was like chill. Jesus was like Barney the dinosaur.
Yep.
He's like, I love you. The only thing he had a problem with was corruption in the temple and people selling wares in the church. So look at where we're at now. I feel like Jesus would be very displeased, but you didn't hear it from me. Again, I'm a good Christian.
I always say that if Jesus knew what would be done in his name, he'd be rolling over in his grave.
But he like rose to heaven. He was
That's
like assumpted. I know. I'm teasing you. I mean, it is fine. It's funny that these things happen. And I do sort of wonder if there is, I mean, one thing that I believe in is kind of divine timing or some sort of divine order. And I think that, you know, whether that is, you know, belief that if you're a good person, good things come to you, or just the belief, and I'll throw this into the mix, something that I teach my students in my classes, the idea of pronoia. Just believe that everything is happening for your best interest. Just by virtue of having that belief is very zen, and then you're working with what's in front of you instead of resisting it. The irony is, and like just to bring race in, I think a lot of people don't realize that some of white privilege is just sort of having that trust in the universe.
Oh my God, yes.
Because there aren't people out to get you. There aren't moments where you have to say, is this because of my identity? Is this because of this?
Yep.
And
faith is a privilege. For I've said that, especially specifically regarding caucasity. In terms of you teaching, I know, but tell my listeners what you, because you Stand Up for Power is your brand behind your comedy, and you teach people how to connect comedy with storytelling, authenticity, spirituality. So give us the rundown on that.
Yeah, so Stand Up for Your Power is, I describe it as an intersectional spiritual self-improvement stand-up comedy class. Basically, I help people turn their trauma into treasure, really like deep dive, explore their emotions, reclaim their narratives, because a lot of humor comes from trauma. Humor in and of itself is a defense mechanism.
Absolutely.
So I just sort of teach people that balance. But again, like I say, my class is called Stand Up for Your Power, not Let's All Be Freaking Friends. You know, and there's something to be said for more people needing to speak up. I include a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion materials in my teaching. Like there was this article by Tema Okun, who, and I think Kenneth Brown, I forgot, but like it was about the characteristics of white supremacy culture. So for example, perfectionism, an obsession with the written word, a false sense of urgency. Like these are things that just sort of affect some people and not others, but it even affects white people.
Yeah. And
so it's just sort of, what are the things that are robbing us of, again, our sovereignty, like your personal power? Because I think power, a lot of people think power is about lording it over other people or what you wield in the world, but your power over yourself can inspire people and engender love. And I think that that's more powerful than anything.
I absolutely agree. And I think some of our biggest stars, whether from film or from religion or from politics, have tapped into that awareness, that power, I love the word sovereignty is also a little triggering because growing up, I was really obsessed with Calvinism. And so I was really obsessed with like the 5 points of Calvinism, one of which is ultimate sovereignty, predestination. So to me, sovereignty is all about, I have no choice in this world because it's already been determined by the divine, or at least that version of the divine that I so worshipped. So I love that you have taken it back, because it's such a powerful action word as well. So I'm going to do some dwelling on personal sovereignty, because that's really, really rich. Thank you for bringing that to my awareness.
I think that's kind of what spirituality should be, is all of us sharing powerful thoughts, all of us sharing what gives us peace, and all of us, you know, being like, hey, not to be weird, but this is something that I believe in, whether it's healing crystals and Reiki, or that Jesus died for our sins, or like in science. And I think that, as we reach more and more globalization, I mean, I think TikTok has kind of opened up the floodgates where we're all sharing what we believe.
Yeah.
And we're all sharing things, and some things sound spot on and some things don't, whether you believe in astrology or not. I mean, is it strange to believe that, like, in a planet defined by gravity, except for people who believe in a flat Earth, that the planets would affect us in unique ways?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or
Absolutely.
maybe there are things that happen energetically. So, for example, like one thing that like really threw me was when I found out about the Schumann resonance. Apparently, the weight of gravity varies at different times, and who knows what causes that.
Yeah.
But you can literally go and check the Schumann resonance and see when it's spiking. And, is that something that human beings are doing? Is that something that, is happening on the quantum level? I mean, my big belief system, it was funny because I tried to like consolidate all of my beliefs because I'm like, oh my God, he's going to ask me what I believe. Oh my God, what am I going to say? Oh my God, what does it all mean? But I mean, I think that like the best way to describe it is just sort of integrated metaphysics. If we just sort of subscribed to the idea that every religion or everything that has a wide appeal knows something and sought what is value in that, imagine what we would learn. Now, granted, that's just sort of like my approach to artistic appreciation. It's like, I'm going to see what I like about it. And if I don't like it, I'm going to qualify what I don't like about it and share that with people so that they can understand me. But I think that because I think part of the reason why they don't want art in the schools is because then we'd all be diplomatic and then we would all like form a collective and then people wouldn't be in power. But again, you didn't hear that from me. I'm not trying to go to jail.
No, we did. And you're right.
Being a stickler. No, I'm just joking. That's a callback to there was this sketch in Living Color from the 90s where she's like, I'm not one to gossip, so you didn't hear it from me.
Right. Where do you teach your classes?
I do. So I teach as part of LACC. So that's more just like Muggle stand-up where I'm just sort of teaching people stand-up comedy. But then I teach my classes one-on-one via Zoom.
Cool.
Because I think it allows people to really go out on a limb. Because we kind of deep dive. In addition to, teach, I use comedy as a tool because that's sort of how I started. I started in stand-up in 2006. But I also just sort of help people by looking at their writing and looking at how they speak about themselves. And I can just sort of like intuitively sense, well, there's an emotion where a thought should be, or there's a block where you went all the way around the corner 3 times instead of just going through. And I think another thing that spirituality or something higher offers us is the ability to look at our thoughts, look at our emotions, in the world. Mm-hmm. That sounded weird. Does that make sense?
No, I absolutely understand that. Because also, I was just this morning, I was watching some of your stuff as well. And I specifically, I want to call out your second baptism, because part of what your comedy does, I think, too, is because people, I think, also just think comedy is just like going for the joke. Just begging for the laughter, which, to some maybe, and it doesn't work. But it really is a commentary. And I love how your comedy is a story with a lesson. It's more of almost a parable. You know what I mean? Like, I just found it so fascinating how, in order to get us to understand what your goal is here, you're going to tell us, you're going to take us on a journey, recognizing the comedy, recognizing the insanity of it all. Can you tell us this story? I know it's on your Instagram, but I'd love for my listeners to hear this story about your second baptism.
Oh, sure. Okay, cool. Let me try. I should have been ready because I had a feeling I'd be doing some storytelling. So basically, I kind of loosely mentioned I gotten into drag, and I felt like drag really helped heal my gender dysphoria because in drag I was actually more masculine in drag.
Oh, how funny!
Like I'd have long hair, a huge wig, heels, full face of makeup, be like, "What's up, baby? How you doing?" And so that, and then I started working out and connecting with my body, and then just sort of like I felt just more holistically connected.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think that when your mind, body, heart, spirit, masculine and feminine sides are all kind of working together, then we're cooking with gas. So I just used to like to go to West Hollywood and put my stank on the bars. I just would go and dance and feel the vibe and just sort of like surf energetically and see what would happen. And I remember I was just sort of like dancing around at Flaming Saddles. May she rest in peace. Yeah.
But they're coming back, allegedly.
Oh, they are?
Supposedly they're taking over the Revolver Bar.
Oh, interesting. Well, what's going to happen to Revolver?
They're done.
Oof.
Go
ahead.
I'm devastated. Revolver. I mean, I don't really go to Revolver a ton, but their history is, I think, very important in West Hollywood.
I also feel like they played hip hop music, and I felt like they played music for like a specific community, and I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we're at Nemo back at Flaming Saddles. So I'm like just sort of dancing and feeling amazing, and this guy walks up to me. He's like, "Oh my God, what are you on?" And I'm like, life, just living my best life." And so I'm dancing, and then I saw this person, this like queer. I mean, I'm assuming, well, like AFAB. They were obviously AFAB, but like they kind of like it was like this.
To speak to the most ill-informed, AFAB is assigned female at birth.
Yes, and so they were, and there was the splitting image of Tracy Chapman. I don't know if you know who Tracy Chapman is, but she's like, "You got a fast car, I want to take it to anywhere." Just like, it cut me deep. And so just we were vibing. It was just sort of a moment where I saw somebody at the same wavelength, and I just introduced myself, and like we were talking, and then they introduced me to their three friends, and it was a black guy, a Latino guy, and a white guy. And so then literally, like, we just got there, and the black guy grabs them by the crotch. Now, I didn't know what to do with this. I didn't know if they knew each other, but literally without missing a beat, I grabbed him by the crotch. And he's like, no, that's my friend. I'm like, I still feel like it feels the same way. You know, and then he's like, oh, it's cool. And so then the Latino guy, like, has a hissy fit. And he's like, oh, no, not on tonight, not here, not this.
Right.
And so I'm like, he's like, you need to go. And I was like, oh, I was invited here. We're cool. Because, you know, the black guy and I had a, like, moment of silence where we understood it. Like, it was like we were having a communal moment. But this guy was not featuring me, getting super dramatic. And so then his white friend's like, oh, man, you should go. He's going to start throwing fists. And I just stood my ground.
No.
And I said, let him. I will end him. Because one thing that I sort of learned in drag was just sort of the difference of like solar and lunar communication, which is like, you know, think of like a matriarch. You know what I mean? Like there's one lady in your family where she just needs to say, not in my house.
Can you explain solar and lunar communication?
Just sort of in lieu of masculine and feminine, I just sort of like to say solar and lunar so that, because I think that, let's be real, a woman from Texas is channeling a lot of solar energy and does not have the softness that God gave her. Whereas like somebody who's lunar is probably more like receptive and it's like a different energy. And I think that if we, you know, both parts make up all of us and both parts make up a day. So I feel like it's a nice way to put it.
That.
Thank you.
and today's a pink full moon, by the way. So there's a little association with that.
I know, and it's the perfect. I'm glad. And you see, look at that. What is the kismet of us recording today on the full moon?
Honey, all the time. It is surrounding me everywhere I go. Yeah. I cannot escape it.
And it might be talking to you, and that's the thing. Sometimes when we keep getting hit by the same thing, we might wonder, you know, well, what is this about?
Yep.
So the Latino guy's freaking out, and then I turned to the white guy and I'm like, why are you letting him act like this? You're a good person. And then he's doing his typical sad Brian thing where he's like, oh no, I'm not. And I'm like, no, you are. And then literally it was like magic. Like the two of them just like flanked him and just started having a very long overdue conversation about why he's acting like a Yolanda and not a Selena. And again, you didn't hear that from me. And so then Summer Lovin' from Grease starts to play. Again, Olivia Newton-John, may she rest in peace. Yeah. Magical. Magical. And there was like a group of people and they were singing along. And so I was singing along and I joined them. And then, you know, the guy's like, I hope you're happy. And like, you know, throws his drink in my face and storms out. And then me not missing a beat, I'm like, please tell your friend I said thank you. That was very refreshing. And literally, as I'm like licking the like remnants of his gin and tonic, this little Latino guy that I was dancing with singing Summer Lovin' turns to me and he said, he looks up to me, literally looks up to me. And he's like, thank you for being you. And in that moment, I really felt more what being baptized was. Because in that moment, I felt like I knew who I wanted to be, how I wanted to show up in the world, and that I wasn't going to let things that I didn't like pass me by. I wasn't going to let people's toxicity affect my energetic sovereignty. And I connected to something greater than myself. And in that moment, whatever, maybe I inspired one person by being gracious when somebody threw a drink in my face.
But guess what? That one person will then go on and inspire one person. It may take a while, but you know what? We'll get it done.
That. And it's so funny because, I mean, apropos of like weird spiritual stuff, my friend did a astrology reading of me with the Mayan astrology, and apparently I was born in the year of the seed.
Oh,
and so it's just sort of like, yeah. And that's the thing, is it's like, it doesn't matter what came first, the chicken or the egg. If I learned that and it inspired me, I think inspiration is kind of the key to spirituality. One thing that, like, when I was kind of on my crazy journey, I'd ask people, what book did you read that really affected you spiritually? And a friend said, The Celestine Prophecy. And this book is 20 years old, and it was like a very popular for a moment. And it talks about these insights into energy and how we're all going to stop trying to get energy from each other by stealing it from each other through control and drama. And instead, we're going to get it from a divine source. And it talks about things like connecting to plants and how you should treat children like they're adults and like all of these things. And it just sort of really resonated with me. And while it provided me with a lot of comfort during the pandemic, because I felt like, as somebody who's like really deep into like esoterica and reading old metaphysical books and stuff, we've been talking about a new age forever, since the 20s. The Fifth Dimension sang about the age of Aquarius. Yep. Mystic crystal revelations and the mind's true liberation and whatever. And it was 3 black men and 2 black women. That's a coven. Whatever, babe. I'm taking it. Like, you know what I mean? And that's the thing. Whatever you get comfort from. But when the moon was in the 7th house of Virgo and Venus was aligned with Mars, something shifted. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I think that like the apocalypse and the things that everybody is worried about is the end of the hierarchy of Christianity. Yeah. I mean,
well, that's why people like MTG and Lauren Boebert are trying so hard to like reinflict this Christian nationalist narrative, and like unabashedly so.
Meanwhile, like Christianity is all about being a good citizen. I don't think people really realize it was like who had beef with the Jews in like the year, 109, and a bunch of cool things to like let's all get along and like let's all not get dysentery. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? It wasn't prescriptive. And I think it's just disturbing that we live in a time where so many people want to say things in Jesus's name, but they are horrible Christians. There are lay people on the street. They're literally, I'm going to say this on the record and be like, here's the soundbite for you. There are Satanists who are better Christians than people who presume to speak in Jesus's name. If you live by the 10 Commandments, if you live by the Beatitudes, if you live by everything that he fucking talked about ad nauseum in this book. Sorry that I said the F word.
No, we cuss.
Okay, cool.
No, we fucking cuss for sure.
That's fucking awesome.
It's funny you say that, because I didn't say the word GD until about 2 years ago, and now it's the only word that I actually use. I just find it, because I feel like I really goddamned everything. I want to also, just because you hit on your sign, you're Sagittarius, Aquarius.
No,
I'm sorry,
close.
Cancer.
Close. Yes, I'm Sagittarius, Cancer, with a stellium in Sagittarius, and it's so funny.
What is the stellium?
So a stellium is if you have 4 or more planets that are in one house, like in one sign.
Got it. Okay, I did not know that. I'm a
Exactly.
Pisces Cancer. So so I
you're
know.
super sensitive.
What makes you
All
think
of the
that?
feelings.
Yeah.
Just...
Is it the tear rolling down my cheek right now?
It's the fact that you're in the fetal position cutting yourself.
No, it's funny because I just got off Lexapro and I've been crying for the first time in 4 years because my emotions are now like free, but like in a good way, not to be worried. But like even like last night I was watching the series finale to Schitt's Creek. And I was just bawling in joy and gratitude that I get to feel how this show makes me feel and like hope. And I was like, oh my God, I miss crying so much.
Yeah. It's funny because I'd be curious where your Mercury and your Mars and your Jupiter are.
I have my chart because I need to. I don't dabble in that world very often, but I do love it. I just feel like it confuses me. But I'll let you know. I'll get back to you.
It's a long journey. Like it was funny because this is just another one of those moments where I was always like, astrology, that's BS. I get it. Whatever. People love it. But then when I like did some deep diving, whenever my favorite moment is when I tell somebody, oh, I'm a Cancer moon. I mean, I'm a Sagittarius, Cancer moon, Cancer rising. The wince that they make when they hear that. And they're like, ooh, it must be really hard to be you.
Yeah.
Because as a Sagittarius, and with so many planets in Sagittarius, I'm very gregarious. I'm very outspoken, sometimes tactless. I'm very out there energetically. But as a Cancer moon, Cancer rising, I'm feeling everything and I'm suffering and smiling and dancing the whole time.
Yeah. Well, at least you have that show. You know, Pisces, Cancer, we don't put on the show. We just,
no.
Usually when I say my three, I don't get the wince. I get, oh, are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not.
You're just one open wound.
Yes. That doesn't ever coagulate.
Yeah. But there's a part of you that also loves it because Cancers like love the darkness.
Yes. But in that's why I think what I do like about things like astrology is that it does not serve as my crutch. It serves as my informant. So that way, knowing that about myself, I can then have practices and environments that don't lend itself to the darkness, and so it's just more self work you have to do. But I think that's why it's important to really investigate all these different
modalities.
And mediums and just tools.
Exactly.
I think they all serve as tools. Right? So in that, like, what have you maintained from Catholicism? I mean, how do you ever have any sort of worship that has a semblance to your early days of belief?
I think joy was something that I had to holistically experience. And I don't think that, given all of the pitfalls and problems of Christianity, I didn't feel it until I was an adult. And I think that joy is, I mean, this is sort of the way I define joy. I know that and this is where we're going to get a little semantic, but I think that, joy is why people write love songs. You can be sad, but there's a creativity, there's a beauty, there's a want for more, there's a trust in the universe, there's a higher calling. You can make peace with sadness, you can make peace with grief. I think that's joy. I think a lot of times people think joy is just like a heightened level of happiness. Happiness is tenuous, but when you're joyous, you can cry with joy. To quote Dolly Parton, laughing while crying is my favorite emotion. Which is a deep cut from Steel Magnolias. Would you be a Shelby with like a moon in Malin, TruTV rising?
No. In fact, if I'm a Pisces, Cancer, I think I'm going to identify as a Weezer TruTV.
Ooh, interesting. I identify as a, what is Olympia Dukakis' name?
She is Clary.
Yeah, okay. So
I can see that.
Yeah, I would identify as maybe a Clary with a moon in Malin.
Okay.
TruTV rising.
Okay.
But I also, and it's so funny.
This is going to be my favorite soundbite of my entire podcast. All 39 episodes. This is going to be what capitulates this fucking podcast.
I love that. But it's funny because I would also like to throw this into the mix. Like one thing, I mean, I also kind of feel like the transcendence, the idea of like something that reaches you to a higher level where you can think about thoughts and think about existential concepts is one of the benefits of like spiritual practice. But it also is the same thing for art. It's also the same thing for philosophy.
Agreed.
And I look at like, in the same way that, you know, astrology gives us insight into the dimensions of our personality, I think about like your favorite movies. So I'll throw this to the audience, anybody who's listening, think of your favorite movie, think of your favorite character and how that person is just like you. But then also think about the villain and how that might be an aspect of you that you don't see.
Okay, that's creepy because my favorite film is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which means that the child catcher is like my shadow.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie?
I have not. Sorry,
if you watch it, you'll understand why that's a very terrible association for that metaphor.
But I mean, there's something to be said. But you're also like a queer person who like lives in West Hollywood. So like, I mean, what part of us isn't?
I don't live in WeHo.
Oh, you don't? Oh, my bad. Where do you live?
I live in Hollywood behind the bowl.
Okay, so should I do that again?
No, it's okay. I feel like, I don't know why it's such a thing for me about saying I live in WeHo. I think because there's, no matter, you know, how evolved a queer person can be, there is still a level of shame and judgment that we have about ourselves that we have to overcome. And I think that's, for me, say if I were to live in WeHo, I would have judgment for myself, I think.
Really? I mean, yes. I would argue that like it was a community that was created by queer people for queer people. And I think that that's kind of beautiful. I mean, I get it because there are many a shitty, you know, gay.
When I walk through WeHo, I sense trauma and pain. Like it makes me like, that's why if I'm in WeHo, I'm probably drinking because I feel so hurt in West Hollywood. I feel like it's in the sidewalks. I feel like it's in the trees.
That is so fascinating. I feel the exact opposite, but I also think I've done a lot of shadow work. So
yeah, I think it is the history though. It's like because it was founded in the midst of the AIDS crisis, and so how many people came there just almost like as a hospice, you know what I mean? Because their families didn't welcome them, their church just didn't welcome them, and so this haven for queer people, you know, at the time gay people specifically, I think that's what I sense when I'm there is just the painful history. But I need to, because I love that you see it as the opposite, and I know people that do as well, and I need to work on that.
I mean, and I think this is just sort of the interesting thing about spirituality is you just sort of get these weird checks and balances from the universe where what of that is projection and what of that isn't. Yeah. And I think I go back to 50-50. I like to believe that like there is something to be said for it's not all of the magic of West Hollywood is light magic. There's some twisted, you know, grotesque parts of it. But I think that, you know, I'm as a former New Yorker or just native-born New Yorker, I just sort of believe that gay people are urban pioneers. And if you think about the beautiful community that queer people created when they were given, you know, whatever, to throw the word back in the mix, sovereignty, to govern themselves. They created their own, you know, sheriff's department. They created, you know, my friend's the poet laureate of West Hollywood. There are people who have, like, they have art, like they have, like I took the WeHo Artist Boot Camp. There's a commitment to arts. Like one of my friends is running for the city council. Like there are actual queer people making decisions, like going into politics. I think that that's beautiful.
It is.
You know, and so, I mean, is it imperfect? Yes, because I mean, like, can every queer person afford to live here? No. Is it getting gentrified by like obnoxious basics coming from like, you know, like states whose names I forget? But I'm just going to bring back coastal elitism because let's be real, the world's on fire. They're not doing anything for us now. What? Fly over states. I'm kidding. Just being controversial, but you know, and it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think when you, I mean, one thing that I'm big about is shadow work. Yeah. And I think once you've kind of done the shadow work, you kind of just see that energy is energy and it's what you decide to do with it.
Yeah.
You know? Because I mean, I do that both, like, I think stand-up comedy is shadow work. I think S&M is shadow work. I think that art, like a lot of visual art can be shadow work. Like when I did drag, I was a clown and I was happy, and all of the parts of myself that I didn't feel safe expressing, I was able to express in drag. It's just nobody got it because I was not channeling an inner femininity, and I was not working with the darker parts of my personality. My shadows were all golden shadows.
Yeah.
The parts of yourself that you repress because you don't feel safe. Yep. I never felt safe being happy around men because of my, trauma.
Yep.
And, if you want, would you indulge me in telling a joke? Doing a bit? Okay, cool. So I have this bit, and I feel like it really kind of encompasses my brand and my vibe. So just I don't get why everybody's like, oh my God, you're gaslighting me. Oh my God. And I'm just like, that's really messed up, because some of us have actually been in abusive relationships. I was in an abusive relationship, and I've had a lot of trouble ever really having a relationship since. All of the telltale signs were there: physical abuse, negging my self-esteem, cutting me down, gaslighting. But I got my JLo moment. I gathered up my self-esteem, and I confidently said, Dad, I think it's time that I see other parents. My mom's seeing this guy, and we're going to make it work. And I think it'd be better if we grew together apart. Now, I wish I was kidding. I actually did have to ghost my dad for 15 years just for my, mental sanity, and it's sad because that movie Inside Out, where there was the core memories that define your personality. One of my core memories is my dad beating his girlfriend and yelling at her for making me cry. That's nuts. That's not just gaslighting. That's gaslighting to the 10th degree. That's gaslightning. Mm-hmm. Go gaslighting, I'm ruining your self-esteem. It didn't happen. You're crazy. But, it's sad. I mean, all kidding aside, I've forgiven my father. They broke up soon afterwards. I feel like that was their kind of come to Jesus moment. And the sad part is I don't even really get to blame my father, because his parents hit them their parents hit them, all the way back to colonialism. Yes. Which leads back to white people. And this is really just a long-winded way of me explaining why I pee on white guys. It's the only way I could wash away the toxic masculinity and the racism and the colonialism. I'm kind of giving back. Some might say I'm doing the Lord's work.
Some might say that.
Yeah.
Some might say that indeed.
But you see how in this moment, I go all the way to the darkness. I share my trauma, but then I punch up. Yep. I come at it from a place of let's attack the systems that aren't working. And I mean, that joke might not be for everyone. And I hope I didn't trigger anybody in the audience out there on the airwaves. But, it's also just, I think the more we all speak our truth, the more we can find empathy, because in the uniquely specific is the universal.
So you teach all this in your stand-up classes?
Yeah. I mean, I really help people kind of dive deep and explore things. And some people will take my class and process their trauma and not even do stand-up, but they'll go on to do bigger things, because it's just sort of what is blocking you? Yes. Yeah. And how can we play with it? A lot of shadow work is literally, and for those of you in the audience who don't know what shadows are, it's just sort of the parts of ourselves that we judge, the parts of us that we're ashamed of, the parts of us that society forces us to put away. The way I describe it is, it's somebody's like, oh, hey, can you do me, it'd be really great is if I could just put this veil over your light. I think it would make some ambiance. It'd be really cool. And then people start piling things on and piling things on and piling things on. And then it's dark, and then everything looks like a monster. Yeah. And shadow work is really just going into the darkness, dealing with the fear, dealing with all the emotions, and disconnecting it. Your childhood trauma should not be making friends with your biggest fears, making friends with your anxieties, making friends with all of the reasons that you hate Joe Beth at work. But when we don't do the shadow work, that's what happens. Yeah. And then it can kill you. I mean, it becomes toxic and cancerous. Literally. I learned that when studying Reiki, that things start on the spiritual level, into the mental, into the emotional, and into the physical. So when you don't process these things, they do. Yeah. Can you give us a rundown on Reiki? Yeah. So Reiki is, I'm not a huge practitioner. I mean, I got a level 2. I'm a level 2 Reiki practitioner. But Reiki is basically, it's kind of the best way to describe it, using scientific terms is just sort of subtle, like energy. It's like just sort of a healing energy that you call upon to offer people healing in moments. And so it comes from Japan, and it's also important to make sure that you're studying under ethical Reiki teachers and practitioners, so it's not like super culturally appropriative. That's why I'm not like going out there trying to make money. I'm more just like, every once in a while I need a healing, you know what I mean? Or like I can offer some healing energy to friends. But yeah, it's just sort of like you call upon energy and it just sort of flows. I mean, I think there's a lot of different forms of energy healing as well.
Yes, and because that leads to this, how I'm going to phrase this question, because you said something interesting that I've never thought about how if you were like really into practicing Reiki, it could be misconstrued as appropriation of culture. And I wonder, is that because you have such respect for Eastern culture, ownership over that?
I mean, I think it's more just, I think you should learn Reiki from, people who like walk the walk and talk the talk. I mean, I think anybody can get like a level 3, like, and then be attuned. But I mean, I don't know. I think that's sort of, I mean, you're opening up a bit of a philosophical Pandora's box, because I think that there is something to be said for being, hey now, what? Save it for Sunday. I'm kidding. I think there's something to be said for being a little bit too precious. I think that, again, going back to globalization and assimilation, I think is like, as long as it serves everyone. But I do think that you should have reverence, because Reiki was passed down. It's a tradition. And I think that there was like, I'm horribly misquoting this. Is why I don't lead with like, I'm a Reiki practitioner. It's more just like something that I do. But like there were some people who were ostracized for it, because again, there was like a religious movement in Asia at the time that was kind of snuffing it out. So it's still surviving, has its roots in like the masters who were practicing it and teaching it.
How interesting. Because it sounds like, in Christian tradition, there's the idea of spiritual gifts that each believer would have, whether it's discernment or prophecy or, pastoring. That it may be more evangelical. This
is fascinating. I never heard that before.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, your grandmother would know, because she's Pentecostal, charismatic. So Pentecostal churches heavily rely on really knowing your spiritual gifts and knowing what piece of the puzzle you provide to the larger picture of the church in terms of ministry and evangelizing. So the spiritual gifts, I mean, there's a list of them in the Bible, in the New Testament, that basically just go over. But I find it interesting because I think it's applicable to other practices of faith. So like what we call Reiki, I just wonder if an original disciple in the Middle East, which is not too far removed from Eastern, belief practices, I just wonder if what was called Reiki would have been construed as discerning or another spiritual gift. Because in my attempt to validate my upbringing in Christianity, because I do recognize its importance and place in the world and in history, I look at how it's equated in other belief systems and how other belief systems, practices, and traditions are equated in Christian tradition. And so that's why I'm curious. I was curious about how you described it as almost appropriating culture. Because I just wonder, did early Christian teachers or Pentecostal people today, did they feel like there's a version of Reiki that is their own?
It's kind of like prayer and energy healing. That's the best way to kind of describe Reiki. It's like you kind of like pray over someone and you kind of call in healing energy for them.
Yeah.
I wish I had led with that.
Do you know what the laying on of the hands is?
I'm vaguely familiar with it, because like I was Roman Catholic and my grandmother was Latino Pentecostal, so it was really more just like singing and having get-togethers and somebody yelling at them about what Jesus would say, proselytizing a little bit less. Like my grandmother didn't really talk about like things with the same language as you did. I mean, at least you guys were doing a deep dive into the Bible. I'm here for that. But
yeah, well, for better or for worse, right? But yeah, the laying on of the hands is basically just where, if it could be a missionary, it could be someone who just lost a parent or a child or a divorce, or, just their kid came out as gay. And so the church, specifically like the elders, the lay, the elders or the preachers would literally lay hands on this one person, would gather at the pulpit, and people would just start laying hands on this individual. And it's while they may not know where it stems from, it is a place of energetic healing, I think, at least in their faith system or their version.
Well, even in just, but like even just in like human science, like there's the bioenergetic field that surrounds us. Like when COVID happened, I was like, oh, I think it's very funny that we should all be 6 feet away from each other because we should not be blending energies. I saw it as a divine message. Stay the fuck home, look in on yourself, check in, and be like, let's fix the planet. And then everybody was like, no, I want money. There were people who somehow managed to make money off of the deaths of people, and yet they're still in office and nobody has a problem with that.
Call them out. Did you ever watch that show Designated Survivor?
Was that the one where like
Kiefer Sutherland's like the HUD secretary, and he gets sequestered during the State of the Union address, and then there's a terrorist attack and kills every living member of government except
and then
him.
He becomes the president?
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, should we manifest that? Like, just start over?
I mean, honestly, I won't lie.
No, Christian.
There is a part of me that like questions what's next. That's why I'm just sort of trying to live by like do right and I mean, let's be real, I'm a survivor.
But like Beyonce Survivor or Reba McEntire Survivor?
Probably Beyonce. You know what's so funny is I saw this on TikTok's conspiracy theories, and I meant to mention this earlier, so it's funny that you brought this up, in an almost lunar communication style. Like, and this is just something that I wanted to wow, now I'm like I started too many multiverses. Let's circle back. So I'm on TikTok conspiracy theory, and somebody said that Beyonce took photos with 4 different colored horses in the same way that was described as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Ooh,
and they're
I
like,
hope it's true. I hope it's
Beyonce
true.
And you know what's interesting is, apropos of everything that happens, one of the belief systems that I believe is in the Hermetic principles. And so one of them is the law of polarity. And essentially they're kind of like just sort of like energetic, like the laws of balance or whatever. If you think about what was done to the Black community and how many Black people have died, both during COVID and during police brutality, during the civil rights era, during slavery, there's just more people on the other side. And so I can't help but wonder if on the other side of this apocalypse is a different world. It's just where it's like, we're just not going to venerate basic bitch white people. Because I mean, let's be real. I want this on the record. America was founded by Puritans who were too much for England. They're like, y'all are nuts. You need to go. It was literally like if QAnon formed a country.
Thank you.
And the fact that we've allowed their trauma to dictate our religious experience, like it lives in the behaviors of people. And that's what bothers me about Christianity being used by people of color, because the trauma of the colonization lives in their diehard holding on to the belief. Yes. It's so prescriptive because it's a tool of control. Meanwhile, half of those people are breaking commandments left and right. I think that if you just live by your own code of honor, and I mean, I really hope that we reach a place where we are more integrated in our belief system, in our medicine. Like the difference between Eastern and Western medicine is fascinating. And I've subscribed more to an Eastern idea. I went from being a hypochondriac to somebody who never gets sick.
Yeah.
You know, but it was because I started listening to my body. I started watching what I was giving energy to.
Well, it's like, I think that's also the cure for the binary. You know, 'cause parts of my obsession with doing the show is preaching about how we are addicted to binary, because it's a safe space to be over there or over here, whether it's them or they, or black or white, you know, Christian, non-Christian, Republican, Democrat. But when the two come together, there's a beautiful gray space that's created, but we ignore it. We're not allowed to be there or to worship there. And I think that 99% of us really find comfort in the gray, even if we don't know it. So I love that you talk about that, like the, you know, the Eastern and the Western medication, like the marriage there that could provide the ultimate of healing. Like, what if we employ both?
Can I piggyback on that?
You can piggyback however you want to.
Ooh, hey now.
It's about to go in a different direction.
It's about to go a whole different direction. I'm kidding. But it's sort of interesting because if you think about, like, there's black and white, and then there's gray. What about when you get to the level where you fully have integrated the gray, and then you decide to just create color? You know what I mean? There's like one idea, then there's two ideas, then there's those ideas in opposition, then there's those ideas in opposition and in union. But then what about like what you create from that understanding. That's what I'm excited about. And I feel like that's probably going to come on the other side of whatever's
I agree.
huge event is going to happen. That's why I'm just keeping it cute. I'm like, cool.
It's not for this life.
You think?
I think it's for the next, on the other side. I don't think
like Adele, like break on through the other. Hello from the other side.
But for real, what if she's already there and she's just like personified here?
Girl, she is. Adele's living her best life. There are some people who and this is something that I also think is interesting. I wonder if some people ascend, become stars, understand something because of what they know. I mean, like Sandra Bullock, like
Olivia Newton-John, case in point.
She was in Xanadu.
Thank you.
The time.
She saw. No, but I do. I think she was one of those. I hate to say the word stars, but she knew her burden. She knew her plot in this life, and it was in service to other people who couldn't articulate what she had figured out. And I think Dolly's an example. I think there's so many examples still living, thank God. Christ was an example. If we're going to go, the Buddha, Abraham. There's so many examples in history of people that were vessels for everyone else. You and I are even on a micro scale, like the people that are speaking up. Even if we don't know what we're saying, like you said earlier, if one person in that bar was able to go and act differently, your purpose was served.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that, that's sort of the goal of ascension is just sort of like, how can you ascend to a higher level of consciousness, understanding, and keep growing? It's like a lotus. Because one thing that I think is interesting to just sort of relate spirituality to Christianity is the idea of, are you familiar with 5D consciousness?
I only am because of something you posted about that man jumping on that slide and flying into the air, into the water.
Okay, so the idea of 3D, 4D, and 5D consciousness is essentially like heaven, hell, and purgatory.
Okay.
So it's just sort of interesting when you just sort of think about these concepts. So like the idea of the 3D is that we are in suffering from disconnection from God or from ourselves or whatever. And that's where suffering exists. 4D is where we burn through our karma and work and learn and do the deep soul work. And then 5D is where you reach a state of just love, divine love, like unconditional love and happiness and joy and health. And, so there's something to be said for if we were looking at these things less in I'm going to fucking do whatever I want on this planet and then I'm going to go to heaven. And instead of it's like, no, heaven is here. As I mentioned with the Celestine prophecy, that's what it talks about. We will manifest heaven on earth because we're all focused on inspiration and following where energy is sending us and creating more energy and beauty in the world, honoring nature, taking care of plants, like creating more self-actualized children instead of trying to rob people of their energy. The fact that we live in a country where we are numbers, where people are just meant to work for a wage that is not livable. And that's another thing, thanks to TikTok. There's this woman on TikTok who just posts about how much better her life is in Seoul, Korea, because the government pays half of her medical expenses. They pay for her childcare. They take care of her kids because they care about human beings. So I want to just hop on a soapbox for a second. It disgusts me how many people are fucking living in a faithless world because they're triggered by religious trauma, while we live in a country that subscribes itself to believe in Jesus, but ignores the things he fucking taught. What the fuck? Sorry, I went on a rant for a second. Giving you levels.
No, that's it. That's the question.
Yeah.
If the divine were standing before you today, what would you say to them?
Oh, this is like my James Lipton moment. If the divine were standing in front of me, I guess that's the strange thing. There's two ways to approach this question, and this is a moment where like half of me is like, well, I'm how am I not? We are at all times, in all ways, everything, everywhere, all at once. There's a part of me, the good little Christian Catholic school boy, that would say thank you. And then there's the devious, chaotic part of me that would ask, hey, Channing Tatum, do we have a shot?
We all have a price tag. Everything's for sale. I just saw that episode of Uncoupled last night where I found
Marcia Gay Harden.
Thank you.
Oh, I love her.
I know. And they were like, "It's the condo's not for sale." She goes, "Oh, honey, everything is for sale." And I thought, she's so right.
I mean, for somebody who doesn't live in West Hollywood, you have a very open idea of very West Hollywood approach to sexual capitalism.
Look, I have not gotten this far in life without knowing how to stay afloat. I'll just leave it there.
No judgments. It's the oldest profession.
Honey. That's just that's gonna go over well. Anyway, I'm so glad we got to chat today. I'm so thankful that the divine provision of allowing us to meet occurring on the streets of West Hollywood, the gayest city in the world. I'm thankful that Bobby dated David, and now you were with David, and I ran into David, ergo I ran into you. Just divinity everywhere.
I love that.
Yeah.
Everybody gets divinity. You get divinity, you get divinity, you get divinity. I could have done that in an Oprah voice, but I did not.
That would have been an appropriation of culture.
I mean, I would argue that would be an appreciation.
Yeah.
If I went and did the exact same thing that Oprah did. Speaking of spiritual gifts, apropos of nothing, I wonder if Oprah's spiritual gift was just to be able to mentally control white women. That was her superpower. She was like, buy this. Yes. Enjoy this. Come to my show. Let's question your trauma, sweetheart.
Yes. I think that she would be afraid to agree with that because it would be giving away the secret.
Mm-hmm. Which is a book that we all have because Oprah.
That was the callback. Yes, that was look at me.
And I yes-anded you, and I made it sing. Improv.
Y'all have just spent an hour learning how to do stand-up. Thank you, Christian Cintron. This has been great. I really appreciate you. I cannot wait to run into you again on the streets of West Hollywood. Unless you ever go to the Hollywood Bowl, in which case I could run into you there as well, because I frequent there. But again, I really appreciate you being here. It's been a blast. You're hilarious. You are so intuitive and yet still so approachable in terms of like the things that you talk about feeling and experiencing are not out of touch to other people who may not be as evolved and deep as you. So I appreciate that about you because I think what you are living is attainable for everyone.
I mean, I did take a vow of poverty. No, I'm kidding. But I think, I mean, in all seriousness, I really appreciate your comment. I think there's just something to be said for just making space. I think that just opening up your heart and really connecting to what you believe and just sort of believing in the things that make you a better person. That's kind of all I try to do.
I love that. And we're going to end it there. I'll see you next time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And all the people said, game in. Thank y'all for listening to another episode of the Fagnostic Podcast hosted by me, Matt Hayes. You can find me at matthayes.com, that's MATHAYES.com, or on just the millennial socials at Hayes on It, HAYES on It. Please go subscribe, review, and share this podcast. And in the meantime, have a blessed day and peace be with all y'all.
Hi, Michael Spicer here. Matt Hayes forgot to put my name in the credits of his podcast as the composer, but I'm here to tell you that I wrote the music for his podcast. Whatever it's called, I don't know.